This is Thursday, June the 13th, and this is our St. Cloud City Council special workshop. With that, I'll call this workshop to order. Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Mayor Blackwell,
Here.
Deputy Mayor Matheny. Councilmember Urban.
Here.
Councilmember Gilbert.
Here.
Councilmember Fletcher.
Here.
Madam Clerk, will you please read this item into the record, our agenda?
Review of Osceola County and City of St. Cloud Joint Mobility Fee Renewal Study and Demonstrated Need Study for the purpose of determining whether extraordinary circumstances necessitate an increase in the mobility fee beyond the face-in limitations established by in Florida Statute 163.31801-6.
Thank you very much. Okay.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Tammy Radke. I'm the Principal Planner with the Community Development Department. And tonight I'll be presenting on our Joint Mobility Fee Study and Demonstrated Needs Study that we did in conjunction with Osceola County. So this study was done due to the need to enhance our future multimodal transportation infrastructure in the city and in the county. So this joint initiative aims to accommodate the anticipated growth as outlined also by both the county and the city's comprehensive plan and transportation element. So tonight, we're going to go over a little bit of the background of mobility fees in the city of St. Cloud, how this study came about, some of the key points from the study, what the proposed mobility fees are, the options for your consideration, and our next steps. So starting with background, back in 2016 is when we transitioned from having a transportation impact fee to a mobility fee in order to fund beyond just roadways, but to be able to fund a multimodal transportation system, including transit, bicycle, and pedestrian facilities. And the study back then also showed the need to change the fees to accommodate the cost and credit and demands. So in 2017, we adopted the City of St. Cloud Mobility Fee Study with a 3-phase implementation plan. And that was fully implemented by 2020. And at that time, 100% of the full calculated mobility fee was applied for our residential development, and 70% of the fully calculated fee was applied for non-residential development. So those are where our current fees come from. So last year, we got together with the county to do this joint mobility fee study, considering that our transportation system is not isolated, and we collaborate with the county in a lot of the transportation efforts. We wanted to make sure that our efforts were consistent across the border and that we were collecting enough funds for our transportation system. So out of that study is what we're proposing today in our demonstrated needs study to update our fees. A little bit more background on the Florida statutes provisions. The Florida statutes 163.31A01 or HB 337 requires the phase limitations on impact fee increases. So those are the requirements for increasing impact fees. They may not increase more than 50%, may not increase more than once every 4 years, and the fees limitations are retroactive to January 1st, 2021. So now that's been about a little over 4 years that we fully implemented our fees. That was another reason why we are doing the study at this time. But also, there are some provisions to that local governments may exceed these phasing limitations, which is by demonstrating extraordinary circumstances supported by a demonstrated need study. So that was what we accomplished with the county in the last year. That includes having 2 public notice workshops dedicated to these extraordinary circumstances, necessitating the need to increase the fees above the phasing limitations. So this is our first workshop with the city, and we have another one scheduled for next week. And the county has also had their own public workshops. And the adoption has to be by a 2/3 vote of the governing body. So from our extraordinary circumstances, we organize the main points of the study by demand for transportation infrastructure, transportation network metrics, the increase in transportation costs, and then the need for the mobility fees. So let's go to the demand for transportation infrastructure. Osceola County population is expected to grow 60% between now and 2045, and the city of St. Cloud has been consistently ranked as one of the fastest growing city in Florida, and it was the 12th fastest growing in 2023. And the county will continue to exceed the growth rate, the state average growth rate, and the city is projected to grow at an even faster rate than the county. So a little bit of the transportation metrics. So this shows the efficiency, performance, and overall health of our transportation system. So on the first graph, we can see the FDOT data that shows nearly a 30% increase in travel across the county's transportation network between 2011 and 2022, while the state of Florida only saw 18.7% increase during the same time period. So we can see how the demand for transportation in our county and consequently in the city is growing faster than compared to the rest of the state. And then on the second graph in the bottom, the county saw a 13.75% increase in roadway congestion during that 11-year period. And the current capacity improvements are not keeping up with the increase in travel demand, leading to an increase in congestion. And we see the same pattern for the city of St. Cloud as well. Another big part of the need for this increase is the increase in transportation costs. This next graphic shows the unprecedented increase in construction costs between 2021 and 2023. So our current mobility fees are not adequate to address the traffic impact caused by new development. The average construction costs in Florida from the FDOT's cost per mile long-range estimating data shows the significant increase in roadway construction, which was a 46.82% increase between 2021 and 2023. So just in the last couple of years, we saw that hike. This can be categorized as an extraordinary circumstance, justifying the consideration for adjusting the current mobility fees. It's also important to note that these construction costs do not account for project-specific scopes, such as right-of-way cost, environmental impact mitigation, or signalization improvements. This is just the construction costs. So there's a lot of other things that could make it more expensive. And then finally, the need for mobility fees. From the presented data, it's easy to see how the steep increase in construction costs, the current situation that we have, they can severely impact the ability for the city and for the county to improve the roadway network. So without the proposed updated to the mobility fees, the cost to improve the roadway brought on by development will far exceed the funding provided by the revenue that we currently have from mobility fees. And then before we go into the proposed mobility fees, I just wanted to walk you through really quick how the mobility fees were calculated. So before calculating the mobility fee itself, we first had to establish this variable that we call the person's miles traveled per land use. So the example in the screen is for a single-family residential land use. And the way that variable was calculated was using the trip generation value from the most recent ITE trip generation manual, which is the International Transportation Engineering. We also consider the percents of new trips, which eliminate pass-by trips, the local trip lane factor from the National Cooperative Highway Research Program, the future trip length reduction factor, which is derived by the assumed densification of the county and the city based on our future land use. And it's also considered the person miles travel factor that is developed by the National Household Travel Survey on account for outbound and inbound trips. So with these variables, we're able to come up with the PMT value for the different land uses. And then when we have the PMT value, we plug that into the mobility fee formula itself. And that will give us the actual rate. So again, we're talking about single family. The PMC rate, which is the personal miles of capacity, is derived from the weighted average of the per mile cost of the roadway improvements necessary to meet the future demand. And the PMC credits account for other funding sources that are used to expand the roadway network. So combining these two times the PMT per land use is how we calculated the final mobility fee. So here's an example of some of the categories that all of the categories that we are adding or updating with this study. A few highlights is the increase of 224% increase in single family. We added a townhome category to better capture that type of development. A lot of these fees are new categories, not new fees per se, but they were just classified under something different before, and to have a more accurate representation of the impact that they bring, we decided to expand some of the current categories that we have, and also to be consistent with the categories that the county has. Some of those categories that we expanded was campgrounds, private schools, university. Some of the categories saw a little bit of decrease, such as child daycare center and health and fitness clubs. Here are some other fees that are being proposed, more non-residential uses. And on this slide, we can see the percent changes for each of the categories. So what we are bringing for you today is the options that we have is to adopt the new mobility fees as proposed, as we're presenting. We can also adopt the new mobility fees less than what is proposed, phasing new mobility fees over time, or keep the mobility fees at the current level. So our next steps include another public workshop a week from today at 2:30 in the afternoon. The goal is to bring this ordinance to the city council in August. And once the ordinance is approved, the fees will be implemented 90 days from that day. Thank you.
Well, that's a lot. We'll take public comment at this time. Lee Steinauer. State your name and address for the record. Good to see
Lee
you.
Steinhauer, 1953 Clayton Heritage Way, Maitland, Florida, here on behalf of the Greater Orlando Builders Association. Just wanted to say, first of all, I see that it's August final hearing, which I want to thank you all for. I know the county moved theirs to August as well, which gives us a little bit more time to digest the numbers and the significance of them, the effects. We have, as an industry, retained a mobility fee consultant to study the study, if you will, do a peer review, make sure that the numbers make sense. Obviously, the increases are rather high on the residential and on the commercial side. So we want to check the numbers, the data, make sure it all makes sense and is done correctly. So appreciate the extra time to allow for that study to be performed, and certainly look forward to working with you all and discussing this further. And that's all I have to add at this point, and I appreciate it.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Steinauer. We certainly, I would imagine, welcome any kind of peer review input that could come to help us get our head around this very important issue. John Michael Fernandez.
Good evening, City Council members. My name is John Michael Fernandez. I am the Director of Local Government Affairs for the Apartment Association of Greater Orlando, 340 North Maitland Avenue, 32751. Ditto what the former speaker just said. Thank you for postponing it a couple months. This gives the stakeholders involved the opportunity to study the study, and we look forward to engaging you further on this issue, especially involving affordable housing, as that's a major topic for the Apartment Association. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Lucy, forgive me if I mispronounce it, is that Giotto?
Very close.
Very close. You help me out now, okay?
Absolutely. Good evening, City Council. My name is Lucy Gitto, the Growth Management Officer for Habitat for Humanity, Greater Orlando and Osceola County, located at 4116 Silver Star Road, Orlando, Florida, 32808. And to echo Lee's comment, I do appreciate the brief pause to the final hearing for the proposed mobility fee schedule, particularly as we consider the detrimental impact of this historic increase on affordable housing in your community. Even with today's fees, providing an affordable single-family residence to a low-income homebuyer in St. Cloud requires a Habitat down payment assistance of nearly $92,000 and results in a net loss in revenue of over $100,000. The proposed 224% increase for single-family homes would result in a loss of $115,000 per home, which effectively puts a nail in the coffin of housing affordability in the city. A pause in the progress will also allow the City Council time to consider potential alternatives that will support the affordable and attainable housing needed to accommodate the influx of more than 2,000 new residents to the city each year. One of these alternatives does include a tiered schedule that's based on home size. This is similar to schedules that have been adopted by Orange County, Seminole County, Lake County. And this basically ensures that an entry-level home is not being assessed at the same rate as a larger residence would be, because assessing all single-family at the same scale will effectively eliminate smaller attainable housing and increase overall real estate costs as builders seek to remain financially solvent in the face of higher fees. So I look forward to continuing the conversation with city staff and city council, seeking to balance the housing and transportation needs of the city. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you, and we thank you for the work that you do. You do make a difference. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir.
Renee Clark.
Good evening. I'm Renee Clark, and I'm here on behalf of the Osceola County Association of Realtors at 1105 Cross Prairie. I appreciate the opportunity to address you tonight regarding the proposed increase in mobility fees. First and foremost, we acknowledge the importance of supporting infrastructure and transportation needs in our growing community. We share the commitment to ensuring St. Cloud remains vibrant and accessible for all residents and businesses. However, we have concerns about the potential impact on the proposed fee increases on both real estate market and the broader economy. It is our belief that such significant increases warrant a thorough and objective examination to fully understand their implications. To this end, we appreciate that the council has paused for further discussions and any decisions on increasing the mobility fees until an independent peer review has been conducted. We believe this approach will not only lead to a more informed decision, but foster greater trust and collaboration between the City Council, the real estate community, and the public. Thank you for your time and consideration, and we look forward to working with you to find the best solution for St. Cloud's future.
Thank you, Renee. Dana Wells.
Hi, good evening. I'm Dana Wells. I'm speaking on behalf of the St. Cloud Chamber of Commerce Economic Development Committee. Thank you for your consideration tonight and for presenting this workshop. Dave Tomac and Tammy and their team came in recently to our committee to do the presentation, and then we took it to our board of directors to get feedback. And I have a couple of questions from our board that we'd like to consider, please. The board asked if more resources regarding the study and the equation could be presented in the next workshop, such as how did the variables of the equation, how were they derived, and then are we looking at similar cities that have had extreme conditions such as ours to gauge if, you know, we're putting the fee at the right level, because we will not be able to increase it for 4 years or decrease it for that matter. The other concern that the board had was, once this is passed, we believe that it would be helpful to consider the path, the plan, the how the funds will be appropriated. And the prioritizing of projects. We'd ask to see that to make a statement and a decision. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Dana. We certainly appreciate your input, and I'm sure those questions will be given serious consideration. I'd like to thank everyone for their positive input thus far. Would anyone else care to speak to the council regarding this mobility fee proposal that has not spoken? If not, we'll have any other discussion or questions by council. Does council have any questions or comments or discussion? Imagine that.
I have one or two. Just a comment, and I see Josh DeVries is in the audience, and he might have this information. If I say it wrong, Josh, please correct me. But I think it's important to note, you know, we all are just, you know, we all see how bad the traffic is, and we're all tasked with trying to do something to make things better. So, you know, we asked to have the mobility fees looked at, and, you know, the costs are, it's staggering, but the costs are what the costs are. I mean, like they pointed out, the construction costs have gone up 46% over the last 2 years. I mean, that's staggering. And then our staff pointed out the fact that this doesn't include a lot of items as well, like the land acquisition, environmental, other things. It's like, I mean, we're also going to negatively impact the community if we all come to like a standstill on the roads. My understanding is if we kept our mobilities as is, based on the seat study, this is where I need Josh, I think we're going to have a $500 million shortfall. $500 million. So I mean, you need to keep all those things in mind. I mean, it is expensive, but the cost of expanding the roads to handle the development, we say development needs to pay for itself. I mean, here we are. So that's all I have to say.
That's a lot. Any other comments? Well, I think we all know the issue that I get chewed on the most is all of this traffic that we have approved here by this council and generated. And then the other issue that always comes up whenever you want to talk about paying for something, that really gets everybody interested and participating. This is certainly a huge challenge. I sit on the Metro Plan board, and the numbers that we look at, just trying to maintain, the roads throughout Central Florida are just staggering, and they can't even keep up, even come close to all the demands that are taking place. So I look forward to discussing this thing further in future workshops, and looking forward to any of the peer review input that any of you have. Thank you for your input tonight, and thank you for being so positive with such a controversial topic. I am incredibly grateful, and I know that the council is. With that, we will be adjourned, and we'll get ready for our regular council meeting. Thank you.